Hello and welcome again to Today's Family. I'm Dick Forbes.
And I'm Dr. Will Carroll.
And welcome back. Again, we're continuing to talk about some relationship issues if you're in a relationship with a personality disorder, specifically a narcissist. Last show, we talked about what are some coping mechanisms and kind of laid out a few for you of, finding safe places, setting boundaries. And I think it's real helpful if y'all learn some techniques. But today, I want to talk about if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, what have I learned?
Oh, wow, yeah.
What has this relationship taught me?
Right.
And if I'm going to move forward in life, because it'll change you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it will change you. And I love what Tim Keller says. He says, we have situations whether we either become bitter or better.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And this is one that we could become bitter, but do I choose to be better through all this?
Yeah, every life experience teaches us something. The question is, what have I learned from this experience? We all have had the experience of going to a restaurant and getting sick and learning that I can't eat here. Mm-hmm. But in life, whenever we interact with people with personality disorders and in narcissistic traits in this example, what have we learned? How are we a better person? What are we going to take from this? And how can we be helpful to even other people with what we've learned in life?
Right.
But yeah, what do you think, Dick? What have we learned?
Well, I think, and we touched on this as a coping mechanism last show, but I bottom line, the folks that I've worked with over the years, they value the ability to set limits and boundaries with these people.
Right, yes.
And they learned how to do it. Some people just have a natural gift. They can set boundaries. But the rest of us, we have to learn it the hard way.
We do.
And I think that is what a person really, really turns. And when they learn it with the most difficult person in the world to them, they learn it in all these other areas of the world.
Right.
And especially people that are people pleasers.
Right.
They're operating out of fear. I don't want to disappoint anybody. Don't want to let anybody down. Don't want anybody to get upset with me. And so when that boundary is learned, especially, I think it's a huge lesson that a lot of folks take away after they've been in a relationship or they're still in a relationship with a narcissist.
And these are not instantaneous lessons. I think about that old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Because as humans, we don't learn things instantly.
No.
Sometimes we have to have the experience 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times before we catch on to what is causing this. So don't give up. Don't feel like you've messed up and you've just ruined whatever relationship you have just because you didn't catch it the first time. Working with people who are narcissistic often takes years of realizing what's going on, realizing their needs, realizing my needs, and the ability to simply pull away and say, no, right now, I need. And I realize you can't give me that, and that's okay, but I need. Yeah. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that power of detachment, the ability to step back and kind of reassess the situation for myself.
Well, you learn that you don't need their approval. That there are other people who think well of me. There's other people who think, I'm a good guy.
Right.
But I don't need that person's approval.
Sure.
As much as we'd like to have it, because especially if it's a spouse, we want our spouses to be proud of us.
Yes.
But it's just not going to happen. And when they start, when they start poking holes and your boundaries are porous, that it's going to be hard to detach. So, backing up, those boundaries got to be clear. They got to be thick. They got to be made of steel.
Right.
and they got to have a lot of locks on the door. And when that takes place, I'm so much easier to detach from the situation and step away from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, a narcissist is notorious for attacking you where you feel most vulnerable. Maybe it's a skill you have. Maybe it's your income. Maybe it's your physical appearance or how you judge yourself in a social situation. But a narcissist will study us, and then they will capitalize on what we feel we are not good at.
Right.
And so setting that firm boundary between their opinion and what I know about myself is huge, because it's not really about if they like my job. It's about if I like my job.
Right. Well, and the other thing with detachment, I think when you learn detachment, you also learn it ain't my job to fix you.
Absolutely.
And I always, we may have alluded to this previous show, but I always try to tell people you live by the 3 C's. Did I cause it? Can I cure it? Can I control it?
Okay.
And if I didn't cause it, if I can't cure it, if I can't control it, detach.
Right.
Let it go.
That's
from
right.
there.
That's right.
But if I'm trying to fix somebody's bad behavior or addiction or whatever it may be, then I have not detached yet.
Correct. And detachment is not in all areas of life. We understand that we have to make healthy attachments to the people in our lives. But when those relationships become narcissistic, our safe place is a step away. We're not abandoning anybody to their lostness, to their life. We are simply saying, I can't help you with what you want, so I'm going to step back and let you live your life.
You know, if you're not sure what detachment means, well, one, look it up. You know? But two, maybe talk to somebody who you admire, who has the ability to set boundaries. Because sometimes when we hear it with other people's lives, you know, reading a definition is one thing, but when I hear, well, this is what I did to detach, you know, I
Right.
quit trying to fix them, I quit trying to
Right.
rescue them, I quit trying to take care of them. That's tangible information that you can begin to use.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet, if you haven't dealt with that codependency either, well, how are they going to get along without me?
That's right.
You know, they'll just fall through, you know, they got to take medicine every day, you know. Are they grown up adult? If there's nothing wrong with
Right.
them, is there's no low IQ or anything like
Right.
that, then
Right.
they'll figure it out. I
They
promise
will.
you they will.
They will. They will. And I think about, we live in an age, and I hear this all the time. I watch them on Live 360. I hear that all the time out of spouses, out of parents. We are very well connected in this 21st century, probably too much, in the sense that we can see where our kid is coming up the driveway by monitoring their phone. The narcissist probably likes that in some real ways, and our feelings of they need me are probably inappropriately related.
Right. But can you 360 the narcissist?
Yes. Yes, you can. Now,
But they
are
won't
they
let
going to
you.
like it?
Yeah.
No, they're not going to like it. They're not going to like it. They don't want that level of accountability. And I realize we've talked about that before, but accountability is not a popular topic in narcissistic circles.
No.
Oh my gosh.
So don't expect it.
Don't expect love whenever you say, I saw you were coming.
Right, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so you know, we got detachment. We've learned about setting boundaries, healthy
Yes.
boundaries,
Yes.
and all these things can be learned. Like I said, some people are natural; they're good at saying no. They're good at detaching, but like I said, the majority of us have to learn it. You know, through
Yes.
through the difficult times. I think another thing and this is what the narcissist teaches us about
Oh, wow.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about here is that how do you value yourself? Where does my self-worth really, really come from
Right.
in this situation?
And we think about in Christian circles talking about our identity is in Christ. And that is a valid point, but we're really talking about how I look at myself in the mirror. Am I satisfied with those things that he, the narcissist, has critiqued? If he critiques, say, your cooking, it's like, but do I value my cooking? Or if he critiques your job or your child-rearing skills, looking in the mirror and saying, but I value those things. That internal affirmation is very important. It's hard for us to look at ourselves after being criticized and disagree, because he said it out loud and he said it so vehemently. It must be true, but it doesn't must be true. It very well could be very false and manipulative. So again, our ability to look in the mirror and go, I like myself. I like the way I dress. I like the way I perform in these social situations. I like my friends. That internal self-worth that we're able to find, honestly, kind of easily when we stop and just look. That's huge in helping us deal with the narcissist in our life.
Right. You know, the great saints of old, they didn't try to make reality conform to their wishes or their soul. They conform their souls to reality. And I think what happens sometimes in these relationships is we're trying to conform, we're trying to get them to conform to our wishes.
Okay, yes.
I need you to act like that. I want you to be like this. And then we're disappointed and disappointed and disappointed. And it goes back to what you said, you know, if I don't put all my weight and worth on something that's here that's going to pass away, then what do I put my weight and worth on?
Right.
Jesus said, lay your treasures up in heaven.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And sometimes you're in that narcissistic relationship and it teaches you that lesson, that I can't get validation from this person. This person is never going to give me what I want. And so therefore, I've got to lay it someplace else.
Yes. Yes, yes. And it is an honorable thing for us to look at our own lives and say, what do I have? What do I have to offer my larger friend group? What do I have to offer my community? Those are honorable things versus this more immature way of looking at it, which is he needs me, she needs me, they need me. I need to focus 100% of my attention on the narcissist because I can save them. The truth is with the narcissist, you can't save them, but you can be a better version of you. And in a lot of times, a lot of cases, that's what can you give to your larger community. This love that you're showing the narcissist, you can show that to anyone. Those in your neighborhood, those at your church, those at your work. Right. Anywhere you could be that kind of person with more encouragement, with more praise, because those people are more likely to look at you and go, thank you, than the narcissist is.
Well, and you can also get your identity wrapped up in being that caretaker.
Oh wow, yes.
You know, that's who I am. They couldn't survive without me. They would dry up and blow away if I weren't around, kind of thing. And so you get so caught up in your identity, be wrapped up in the other person. Right. That's where you lose who you are more than anything. A guy named Ernst Beck wrote a book back in late 60s, early 70s. It was called The Denial of Death. And he describes, that was the period where the God is dead theory was out there.
Yes.
And Becker said, we've taken God out of our culture, so we had to replace God with something. And he said, art many times reflects culture. What was the art of the late 60s and 70s? It was rock and roll. And what was the message in rock and roll? It was sex and romance. And he said, we took that message and he called it the Godhood. We put the Godhood on this person that they were going to do for me what they really can't.
Correct.
So it's too big a burden for them and it's too unrealistic for us. And if I'm in this relationship with a narcissist, that they're never, ever, ever going to do for you what you want them to do.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
And so I've got to not put my it on the narcissist that's going to fulfill me, that's going to make me whole, that's going to give me self-worth and value as a person.
Right. And identity development's a huge thing that we humans go through as we age, through childhood, into adolescence, into adulthood, and even throughout the lifespan, we will struggle with identity development. Who am I? Who do I want to be? As I look across the spectrum of the world, what do I want myself to reflect? But yeah, a narcissist will twist your identity to make you think that you exist for them. And at that point, you will feel cuffed or bound by their wishes and desires. And that is very important for you to be able to go, I don't want that. Talking about discernment, our ability to look into a situation and go, that's not right, is huge. Now, obviously watching this video, you're trying to gain a certain level of discernment, and that is very noble. I and Dick appreciate that. But there's other places to gain this wisdom. Many of the books that we have available, obviously, we think about going to the Bible to get discernment. I think about Proverbs and Solomon talking about get wisdom and get understanding. But yeah, our ability to discern the relationship, its actual boundaries, not what we wish it to be, but what it actually is, and our ability to say, this is what I can offer. Now, some of that is going to be some of the boundaries we've talked about, and some of it's just going to be, I have nothing. I have nothing to give the narcissist. This is my time to step away, turn away, focus on me. But yeah, discernment is huge.
I think it's huge. I think it's something that's missing in the church today. I mean, I really do.
Oh, yes.
But the only way I know to get discernment is you got to go through the fire.
Yep.
Life lessons got to hit you between the eyeballs and think, don't want to do that again.
Yes.
So and it does. I think it, when you go through this relationship, I think you're able to read people better.
Yes.
And you're able to pick up on things that are a little bit quicker. Some of the wisest people I've ever met, I've got a friend, he's been sober for, 30 years now. And just his whole recovery process, he's one of the wisest people I've ever known. He's not a book nerd, and he knows Scripture pretty well. But when you talk to him, it's just like these jewels of wisdom. It's because he's been through it.
Yes.
you know, and
Oh, yes.
he can sniff out, you know, if you know you're trying to pull one over him or not.
Oh
So,
my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, life is probably the greatest teacher in the sense of we have these experiences and we modify our behavior to respect those experiences. One of the biggest, for me, when I sit in counseling with people, one of the biggest life changes I see is high school seniors. And they're struggling with that transition. Society is telling them, you're about to become an adult, get ready. And they're sitting there going, what does that mean? What do I need to do to prepare to be an adult in the real world? And our particular society oftentimes pushes college.
Yeah.
Go back to school, get more education. But their discernment, their wisdom, what they're asking for from us is, what do I do?
Right.
Like, it's enough to say, go here, go there, but what do I do with that? What do I do with all this information I've gathered over 13 years of school? What do I do with my independence? What do I do with this relationship I'm in or this part-time job? Those are great questions. What do I do with that? And that's where a therapist can be of big help. Your ability to sit down in front of somebody else, a professional, even a pastor or a lay minister like your Sunday school teacher, being able to sit down in front of them and go, what do I do next? And gain that wisdom, that discernment from your own life experience, what it means, and then other people's life experience. You went through this experience, you lost a child, or you went through this experience and you had to ask your spouse to leave. What do you do next? And so that's great, that's very mature to be able to sit down with somebody and just ask, what's next?
Right. Speaking of next, things we still learn.
That's right.
Compassion.
Oh, wow, yes.
You know,
Yes.
again, I go back to that statement by Keller, do I become bitter or better? And if I become a compassionate person, then I'm less critical, I'm less judgmental.
Yes.
And then I have clarity of my purpose, my meaning in life. And, you know, sometimes, I would not say this is an over-exaggeration, but I would say that probably most people that have come to Christ is they're going through suffering. They're going through brokenness.
Yes.
And I would think that that would be an over-exaggeration either to have the deeper life with Christ. We go through suffering and brokenness. And, you know, the narcissist teaches us this sometimes, you know, that we have to go through the bottom of the barrel. And with Psalm 84, it talks about walking through the valley of Baca, and Baca means the valley of tears.
Right.
And sometimes we have to go through it.
Right, right. I remember a story. Jesus was sitting with a Pharisee, and of course a lady came in and washed his feet. And he said, Simon, I want to tell you a story. And he told a story of a Pharisee or a scribe in the temple praying for forgiveness and a tax collector coming in and praying for forgiveness. And the point Jesus was making in that parable or that story was he looked at Simon and he said, who do you think loves more? And Simon said, the one who's been forgiven more. Right. And the point of that is that volume, that amount does matter. Now, we often think our suffering doesn't matter, woe is me, this is unfair, I don't deserve this. But that volume does matter because it speaks into your life that you could speak into someone else's life who's hurting. So our suffering does matter. Right. It does count. It is worth something.
Well, and I think more than anything, it gives the person a totally different take on that narcissist. Instead of viewing them as a monster, as this horrible person, you know, they're damaged.
They are.
They're broken. You know, they had horrible things happen to them in the past. So it allows that compassion, and I think it brings us to that place because forgiveness is not an option.
Right. Right. We are told.
We're commanded to forgive.
Correct.
And you know that story that you were talking about, you know, of forgiveness. And so at some point I have to forgive this person. And the way I get there is I get the compassion that's in my heart.
Correct. That is correct.
There.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we could talk more about compassion, but I do agree with you. When I look at people with personality disorders, I often think that they're incomplete. They're missing something. Like the antisocial person has no compassion or concern for anybody's rights or their property or their person. They're missing something. And as you deal with people with either this personality disorder or another, it's a good idea to think of them in light of they're missing something. Not that you have it to give them, but as you interact with this person with a personality disorder, I have some understanding, in this example, compassion, that they just do not have.
Right.
But yeah. Yeah. Lastly, talking about our growth, like where we've come through this valley of the shadow of death, if you were. I think about what do we actually have now, and we can talk about things like my confidence or my understanding, my wisdom. But what about that strength? What does that look like for people who've lived with a narcissist?
Yeah. It's in Genesis 50:20 where Joseph's brothers had shown up, and he looks at him and he says, "You meant this for evil, but God meant it for good."
Yes.
And I think, I look at counseling, if I can get a person to reinterpret what has happened to them,
Yes.
And to say, well, this changed in your life, you were stronger here, you got more wisdom here, as opposed to looking back at the event with bitterness and hatred. And what has it done for me? Has it strengthened me? Has it made me a stronger person? Has it increased my faith? And like Joseph said to his brother, God meant it for good. As horrible as it looked, as terrible as it looked in Joseph's life, he was able to say that. That was reinterpreting what had happened to him. And I think that's kind of the end product that I look for in counseling is when people are able to reinterpret what has it taught me.
Right. Yeah, and one of those therapeutic techniques that us as therapists are always pushing is a deeper understanding of this thing that you're struggling with, whether it's your spouse or your kids or your money or your own internal distress, anxiety, or depression. How can we understand that more? And I know that goes back to the discernment, but when people can see why they're anxious, when they can see why they're depressed, they can act differently towards it.
Right.
And so that is a greater understanding. That's a greater wisdom. We'd call that interpersonal, but yeah, that's a greater wisdom. And the same thing with a person who has lived with someone who's narcissistic, the ability to look at the situation and go, yes, but now I know. Yes, but now I'm doing this differently. I'm a stronger, I'm a more independent, I'm a more confident person, and I can help.
Right, that's exactly right. Well, I think we've kind of wrapped up we've kind of beat narcissism to death, haven't we?
We've definitely done something to it, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I appreciate y'all joining us today. And again, our goal is to give tools to help people, to encourage people, and more than anything, to point people to Christ, because He is the ultimate answer for all our problems.
Absolutely.
So we'll see you again next time. Take care and God bless.
Goodbye.